So here I am, this black guy, got a white girl pregnant, and she's like, we gotta go tell my parents. Her dad was in the military.
And police.
So a friend of ours offers to drive us to her house where her parents were living. Amy and I had a plan. She was going to open and say XYZ, and then I would say whatever, but she was going to start. And the guy who drove us, he's like, okay, I got to go. And we're like, what do you mean you got to go? Like, you got to stay.
These are escape plans.
Like I might be running, jumping over the fence, shotgun behind me. Like, you need to stay here, keep the car running, start the car,
Hey, everybody. My name is Amy, and
Batsarai.
this is my husband.
Wow.
I'm his wife. And I'm super excited because this is our first podcast that we've ever done together. So we've done lots of other video things, but we've never done anything like this. And this is really exciting. So thank you for watching our very first podcast. And we are already loved. So welcome.
Welcome.
Okay.
So how are we starting?
Okay. So basically, because this is our first podcast, having started Already Loved, our passion really is to get the message out that you and me and him, we're all already loved. It's a bit of a mouthful. And we're going to get into what we mean when we say that. But our first podcast, we thought it would be really cool if we introduced ourselves with a little bit of sharing our story. And that goes back more than 25 years now. And so that's what we're going to do. And then probably the main theme undergirding all of this that we want to really share with you is the importance of connection and what that has to do with being loved by others and by God.
One of the things that we realize now that we didn't know way back when was that identity is so important. And identity being, at one level, who you think you are, what you think about yourself, of course, and what does God think about you? And even more than that, like, who is God? And so when we started that place where this is what identity is, and this is what, if you know who you are, or you don't know who you are, that makes a big difference in your life. And all the good choices that you make probably come out of the good parts of your identity, let's say. And the bad choices that we make also come out of our identity or the way we think. And you have to accept that there are false identities and then there's true identities. And we distinguish them by, like, the true ones are the way that God sees us. And the false ones are the ones that either other people have told us, that we believed ourselves, that the enemy has told us. If you think of, and again, it's not just how we think of ourselves, it's how we think about God. When, like, even back in the garden, right? The way that Eve was tempted was when Satan says, well, did God really say that? Right? Like, did God really mean that? Or is he holding something back from you? And so all of a sudden she begins to question, is God really that good? Is he who he says he is? And as soon as that question of identity comes in, it opens up the door for all these other things and these doubts and these questions, and we start making up our own identities. And so that's where a lot of this comes from. Our heart is like, man, if we can help people in general, lots and lots of people, realize who they are and discover their identity or remember their identity, that a lot of things in their lives could be simpler. And so a lot of things in our lives were complicated because of our identities and the way we thought about ourselves and God and everything. And the fact that, I don't know, I was just thinking about this, like the fact that we can do this podcast now. I used to be very, very ashamed or scared of telling people this story mostly because, well, if I tell you the story, then you're going to realize I'm not a great guy. And then you're not going to love me because I'm not a good person, because I didn't do good things. And therefore I'm afraid of rejection, because if you knew who I was, basically, you would reject me. And so then that's what shame is, right? Like, I'm afraid of rejection. And so the fact of even doing this without sort of, going nuts is
amazing.
Yeah. Part of the journey.
And the fact that we're doing this as a couple, because I think in the past we've wanted to do things together like this. And I know my heart has always been, well, I think both of our hearts has always been like doing things together would be really cool.
Mhm.
But because of our belief systems and the lies that we believed in, all of that, it just wasn't going to work because we were so at odds with each other. So I think from personal perspective, like you were sharing, but also when we look at our relationship, like just doing this says like, oh my gosh, we have overcome a lot of stuff to be here. And that just makes my heart so happy.
Aw.
Okay, so we gonna tell the story now or
Yeah.
what?
You tell it. You told it so many times.
Okay, I'll start and
I'll interject with my,
yeah, you'll
if
interject.
anything.
So, um, so this was back in 1999. I had just come home from a year abroad. I was living in Northern Ireland doing like a missions work there. And this was after I'd gone to college and had my diploma and what I was going to do, but I just wasn't settled in. Okay, let me go out and work yet. And there was a big part of me that, like, I grew up in a Christian home, so there was a big part of me that, after tumultuous teenage years of participating in lots of stuff that got me into a lot of trouble, I had sort of coming back to God or had an awakening about God again. And I wanted to maybe go to Bible college and learn about God and really dive deeper, whatever. So this is kind of where it starts. So I come home from Northern Ireland and I was pretty like emotionally and mentally not at my best for a lot of reasons, like just stuff that's been throughout my whole childhood, like just, struggles that I had or immaturity or things like that. But also being away for a year and then coming home, it was a huge transition. And I found the transition was really actually very hard. So I ended up in the Bible college. He was already there, a student. He had been there for a number of years, doing like a worship.
1 year. One
Oh,
year.
oh, sorry. I thought it was more than that. Okay. So 1 year doing worship degree type of thing because he's a worship leader and a singer.
Sorry. Well, it was a Master's of Theological Studies,
Excuse me.
not a diploma.
I had a
And,
diploma. Don't make fun of diplomas. Anybody out there has a diploma? It's okay.
and yeah, so I was going into my second year and you had arrived. All right,
Okay.
carry on.
So I arrived and I, was just getting involved a little bit, like basically the very initial initiation type stuff of starting college. And very quickly we met and we started talking. And he saw me from a distance wearing a black mini skirt and thought I was really hot.
It
And
wasn't the black mini, it was just, yeah.
anyway, so we started talking and we started hanging out really quickly. And he was introducing me to his friends. I didn't have any, obviously, yet because I just started going to the school. And we started having a lot of fun. Like we played cards and, would joke around and just have a lot of fun. So, and then one night I remember specifically, we went out for a big dinner with lots of people from the school, I think, and some of your friends and whatnot that had become my friends. And the one really cool, very initial thing in our relationship that I remember about him is he said to me when we went to the restaurant, he said, "May I have the pleasure," or I think he said the honor of sitting beside you at dinner? And I was actually really blown away because, first of all, I had never ever had a guy speak to me like that before. And so that blew my mind. And I thought it was really, really sweet. So of course I said yes. So we sat there beside each other that night and we were kind of like ended up sending like little notes back and forth.
Yeah. This was like the literally first week or so that we had met. Like, wasn't
Okay.
like this
Yeah.
happened before we were hanging out and playing cards and all that stuff. But
Right.
yeah.
I often forget the timeline, so
No,
he'll
that's good.
probably fix that a little bit. So we're just, passing notes back and forth, being silly and flirting and all of that. And it was good. So we had started hanging out and we were dating and
She's getting nervous about saying it.
because I start rambling.
She started staying over in my room for little extended times. What happened was, some relations happened.
He has a hard time saying the word. So we started having sex. I said it.
This is like a PG thing.
Was that in December?
Ish, yeah, because
Was
I
it
left.
November?
No, because I left back to
Remember
them
that.
for Christmas.
Okay.
And
I already knew by that time.
no, you called me and Zim.
Right. Okay. See, I forget. I
What
don't
the
know. It was
heck?
emotional turbulence of the situation. So, yes. So we started having that kind of relationship. Now, As was said, I will just restate that we were in a Bible college.
Mm.
We were both Christians. We grew up in a Christian home, very faithful Christian, not perfect, of course. That's not what I'm talking about, but we went to church. We loved God. And I had just renewed my relationship with God, so to speak. I'm just saying the truth. And right away, we sort of got into the deep end. So I'm starting to feel obviously a lot of shame about it. I'm feeling guilty. He is feeling the same. And he says to me that, okay, we need to end this relationship because we're not in a good place. And this is not what I want. I think he was the one to kind of propose that to me. And so he was also then, like he said, it was around Christmas time, and his family, he is from Zimbabwe originally. He was born here, but his family was back in Zimbabwe, and he was going to Zimbabwe for Christmas. So he left for Christmas holidays. I was living in the dorm because at this point my housing with my family was just in a weird space and I had to stay in the dorm to have my own space. So I was staying in dorm. While he was away, I did not get my period and started to get really scared, obviously. I had to ask someone that I knew who went to the church that I was going to at the time to actually take me to a clinic to get a pregnancy test because I had no car and I didn't want to talk to my parents, obviously, because I was freaking out. So we did that. And I was sitting in the doctor's office, waiting, very nervous, very scared. And the doctor comes in and says, "Congratulations." And I just start probably bawling. I remember being very upset. And the doctor actually said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So this is where I'm at. Obviously, if you're a Christian, if you've ever gone to Bible college, you know what the scenario can feel like. Just a overwhelming, like, I'm all alone. I don't have anyone around me that I can talk to about this because that's just shameful. Like, I can't even be honest. Um, and that's not to speak about how the other people would respond. That was my fear. And then he's not here. He goes home, having a great time at home. And yeah, and that's where I was. So at that point, I don't know exactly again what the timeline was, if it was a few days or if it was right away, but I think I went back to the Bible college and within a day or two or that same day called him in Zimbabwe to tell him that I was pregnant.
Yeah. I remember that phone call, I think. And that was like, yeah, it's everything that she said when and I got that phone call. Yeah, like, as Christians, of course, you're pro-life and all this stuff. And as I remember just like this, how do I get out of this? How do we get out of this kind of thinking? And everything crosses your mind. Oh, abortion, or maybe I can, or adoption, or like all, you're just going like, and for me, it was slightly different. It wasn't just there was the shame bit, but it was also, oh, I felt so called and I felt so like, God was going to use me in amazing ways. And so now this is just like a, what, like a hurdle or like something that,
A
a
detour.
detour, like this is totally messing up the plan. And yeah, just feeling that, like panic almost, like, what do I do? What do I do?
Mhm.
Like, how do I cover this up? Or how do I make this go away? And God, why would you do this? And you had plans for me. And then why wouldn't you, step in and make it, not so,
Mm.
Um, so you're going through all this is all in within seconds, all the thoughts that are going through your head. Um, and, and then, yeah, like, I think I was like that for probably a day or two. And, um, and then it was the day before I'm supposed to come back, or the night before I'm supposed to come back to Canada. I'd been like silent pretty much since the phone call. And so my parents, and they like had this great dinner and it was so nice and my favorite meal. And they were like, "Oh, we just wanted to," it's like, "You've been such a great son. You went to university and now you're in Bible college and it's amazing. And we just want to give you this, parental blessing for all of who you are, and just want to just pray this over you." And I'm sitting there like feeling like, what? Like, and then and they could tell by my face that something was wrong. And so, I remember just them asking like, "Okay, what's wrong?" And I just kind of broke and just
Mm.
like, "Bah, here." And the first question was like, "Well, do you love her, Amy?" Right? And even then, I was like, I mean, we'd been dating for 3, 4 months. So I was like, "Yes." Like all these questions were like, "Do you want to get married?" And I'm like, and I kind of saw it as like here's a here's a light, it's the first glimmer of light kind of thing. Because they weren't angry and they weren't. Um, I'm sure inside they were disappointed or whatever, but I never felt that. It was like, hey, there's a way forward here. And basically it was, yeah, go get married, have the child, and live happily ever after. And again, hard for them because I'm leaving literally the next day, and I wasn't going to tell them. I actually had got one of my friends, and I told him, and he was going to come over the next day to tell them while I was away because I was like, I did not want to tell them face to face at least. Anyway, so now they know, and then I leave. I come back the next day, and again, I'm much more lighthearted. It's still like a big like, oh my gosh, but because just the support, that initial support and connection with my parents, that really, really, really helped me see things. See that there was some light to this dark tunnel. And yeah, then we came back. I proposed. She said yes, and then we start. And then, oh yeah, so now it's just the two of
Well,
us who know and what, a small circle of
yeah,
friends.
that's what I was gonna say. So, like, at that point, when we decided that we would get married, it was very comforting to me because it really helped with the feeling of like, I'm totally alone in this. But then still felt alone and really like, I don't know how to say it, like confused about a lot of, like, had a lot of feelings, floating around in our heads and minds. Um, and I think we agreed that we needed like other support, but we weren't at the point where we were open with what was going on. We were still hiding it in ourselves and keeping it to ourselves at that point. And for I don't know how long, maybe like a couple weeks or something. Um, I can't remember what came first. So we ended up telling the dean of the school and just being open with him. But I think maybe even before we did that, we talked to a few close friends and
Yeah.
just got this circle together of people that we trusted. And so we told them what was happening, and they were really, really supportive and comforting. And they became people that really walked with us through the journey of, okay, what do we do now? Like, what are the steps forward from where we're, but I do have to say that when we shared with them, I do remember that being that support and that connection point with those people was like really, really helpful and like a lifeline. So after we told them at some point, we said, okay, we need to be honest with the dean of the school. And
Well, no,
no,
no, it's because
oh,
he asked.
oh, he asked
Yeah,
without
because
us
of
going to.
your.
Right. So I said everyone was supportive. Well, I did have a roommate who was not so supportive. And so, yeah, she ended up telling where we were at,
We
and
think
then
at least. We don't know. I don't know if she ever said, but
yeah,
yeah.
so anyway, but she was very unsupportive and angry at the whole situation, which is fine. Everybody has their perspectives and whatever. So we went in and we talked to the dean of the school, and we basically said the whole thing, the whole story, where we were at. And I think he was another point of light for us. So he called it an opportunity. And that really helped give us a different perspective of the whole situation.
So yeah, the dean sits us down and he's like, "Well, I heard something, blah blah blah," and then we basically told him. It's like, if you like, hard to hide. And then he's like, "Well, there's an opportunity here." Remember, I'm like almost like a school chaplain. Like, I'm leading worship each week in the chapel. So it's not just another person in the situation. It's like someone in leadership. And he's like, "Well, you have an opportunity to tell the."
School.
And up until then, like, it's almost, when you're hiding something, it's like you think everybody knows, or you're wondering if everybody knows. And so
Hmm.
if somebody looked at us too long, they'd be like, "Oh, do they know something?" It was just really hard to go into like the like cafeteria and places like that, just because you always felt something's got out, somebody's going to know something, like
Hmm.
we're hiding this big secret, and just this cloud over us. And anyway, so says there's this opportunity, which you didn't necessarily think was an opportunity, because getting up and telling everybody your deepest, darkest secret was not well, didn't feel like an opportunity. but we did it. I don't know why, but we, we asked,
Yeah.
we got up in front of the whole school, basically. I mean, not everybody was there, but
A lot
the
of
room,
people.
and we didn't know if we are going to get stoned or get tomatoes or whatever. But I remember that, after saying everything, I didn't forget what we said. They all sort of rose and gathered around us in a circle and just prayed for us. Yeah, I mean, it's all a blur, but it was just, they just prayed for us. And then I remember walking into the cafeteria after that chapel and just feeling just this lightness and just like, oh, okay, now we're back. We're back in the collective, or so to
Hmm.
say, but not feeling that heaviness.
Yeah.
And we had all these people come and, say, okay, hey, I can help do the wedding planning. I can help you find flowers, blah, blah, blah. Like the school, we did the wedding was going to be at the school. We invited obviously all our family. My family flew from Zimbabwe. We had people from, yeah, just all our extended family and like
It
family,
was really
friends,
open to the
really
school
open.
too, like anybody could come.
Yeah, people from the school could come, people in the school, like friends who, did all the catering and
Yeah.
like, there's just so much, of the,
Well, this is the miraculous part of the story that really, again, like touched our hearts in a really massive way because, like he's saying, once we were honest and open about it and we started planning the wedding, people just came to us wanting to help. And oh my gosh, that even brings back emotions from a long time ago. But, like, we had a lady pay for all the food. There was another lady who did all of our decor. My parents paid for, obviously, a lot of stuff, but our wedding dress was a huge piece. His parents paid for our honeymoon in Florida, which when we went in March, it
Myrtle
was, like,
Beach.
cold. Myrtle Beach, but it was still good. And
People, our friends gave us a place to stay in Myrtle Beach.
yep. And then after the wedding, when we needed a place to live, that's a whole other story in and of itself, but we were searching for a place to live. Um, the finer details, you're good at telling it, but basically, we had someone who had an apartment they were renting, and they decided to sublet it to us
Yeah, because
and
they were
pay.
working in the
They
States.
were working in the States and pay for, I think, all of our rent or half of our rent
Just like half, or we could be
for
all
a
our
little
half.
while.
Basically, we were like house sitting
Yeah.
on their behalf.
Yeah.
And so, but even discovering how we discovered this, that opportunity to get that place was a miracle in and of itself. Do you want to tell all that?
Well, very quickly, like, we didn't have a car,
Yeah.
so someone gave us our car to even go. What about, I can't remember how the phone call went, how we discovered, because
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
back in town or something?
Yeah, so we heard about this, there's some people back in town, that worked at a church. We called the church. I remember calling on a Saturday morning. I don't know why and why I thought anybody would be there on a Saturday morning. Someone picks up and he's like, I was just in picking up the mail. And the phone rang. So I picked up the
Timing.
phone and yeah, I do know that couple. Here's their number. Good thing you called because they're leaving tomorrow. And you have to, if you're going to go see them, you probably have to go today. So I call the couple and they're like, yeah, hey, we're like, that's amazing. Come and see the place. You're going to have to decide here and now because we're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so we go over and I remember like praying on the way there, like help us to like love it or it not, a definite yes or a definite no. And we get there. That was amazing. And now they had all their furniture,
Yeah.
all their pots and pans and
Plates, cutlery,
everything,
cups, like
everything. And they thought it was it's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like all this stuff is here. The TV, stereo, everything is here. And sorry, you can't, you have to leave it there.
yeah.
And of course, if you're normally renting, that would be a pain. That would be a problem. But in our case, like all we had was like our suitcase and stuff from our dorm, like clothes and stuff. And so it was like perfect. Like we move into this fully furnished apartment, half the rent, everything is there,
It was amazing.
and it's just perfect timing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just and not too far, like from everyone that we knew. So yeah, it was just like God just really like that was a major miracle.
Yeah. There were so many miracles, like, just it felt like everything we needed to get us going on the right foot happened and was given to us, and we hardly had to pay for anything. And then same thing, like, so obviously we're pregnant. We got married in March of the next year. We met in September, got married in March, and then our son was due to be born in September. And so obviously we need things for a new baby, and all of that was given to us or provided, like we didn't really have to
Yeah.
buy very much at all. So, so many miracles, so many amazing things that God was doing.
Yeah. But there's also like the emotional journey. Like once it's almost like once we were getting married and everybody knew, um, like she was into like planning mode and all that stuff. And I kind of went into like, well, hold on, slow down.
This
Like,
how are we gonna survive?
not a survive. For me, it was more like, oh, do I even want to do this?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Like the train was now going in this direction of marriage and the whole school's behind it and all these people are helping. And I'm like the one, like almost, stepping on the brakes. And I went back to my sort of college town where my sort of Canadian family is. And I remember just over a weekend, just trying to figure out like, what am I doing here? And I just felt like, you know, sounds bad or like thing, but like getting married in the hope that God would take this situation and turn it around for good, and that He could. Like I wrote down all these feelings that I expected to have, and then like, okay, what and I'd write scriptures against or truths against those. It's like when you're feeling like this is not the way things are supposed to be. Remember that God is with you, and He can take dirty water and turn it into wine, and that kind of stuff. And it was, yeah, I came back from that sort of going, okay, i don't I don't know what the future holds, but I know that God is with us. I know that he can make something great out of this. Don't know how, I don't know when, but
Yeah.
and so in my head I was like, literally getting married in faith that God would do this. Our situation is not too hard for Him. He can take that and turn it into something good. Not just good, but just like with the water into wine, it was just turning water into wine. It was turning it into the best of wines. And so, like, how could He take our marriage from this place and turn it into not just something that we enjoy, but something that blesses other people? So it was yeah, it was a really hard time. And we obviously we got married. It
Mhm.
was a great day, and
And I
yeah,
just want to say, like, I think so he's sharing his perspective once, the craziness was sort of slowing down and then you're realizing, okay, this is life now. He was sharing like how he felt. And I think for me it was different in that I was just like, I'm the one pregnant, I'm having hormones, I'm having to think about this child and giving birth and that whole transition, which is massive when you go from, a single woman not thinking about that at all to all of a sudden you are. And so we kind of handled that season right after like deciding to get married and stuff a little different. And there was different vibes and things happening in our emotions. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to say that because
mhm,
we do handle things differently. So now we're married and we're starting this whole journey, with eventually having our son Jaden, who is an amazing, incredible guy now, 25 years old, and we have a daughter Simone too. Can't not say her name, but we share the story because there there's so many things that we learned and grew through and not even right away, like even over a period of many, many years. Whereas to date, we've been married 25 years. But I think what we wanted to do and the purpose of sharing our story was really just to share what we learned, a few main key points that have stuck with us all these years, and how God really just showed us who He truly is for us in that situation. And I think one of the big things that we learned was the power of shame to promote disconnection and loneliness and fear and isolation. And when we do something that we think is bad or our culture around us says is bad, religion might say it's bad, our parents might say it's bad, but when we do something that we think is bad, we feel shame, we feel guilt about that. And the shame comes from because I did that thing, I am now no longer worthy of love and connection, and I'm not good enough. And so we experience that hugely. Examples of how you can see that is our desire to hide what we had done, to hide where we were at. We didn't share it openly right away. Like it was, a little while, a few weeks at least of battling with what are we going to do? Like, and feeling like we couldn't tell anybody and had no one to talk to about it.
I would even say like the initial getting married was an attempt to hide, because I think we told people we're
Yeah.
getting married,
Yeah, you're
but we
right.
didn't tell them that we were pregnant. Right? Our friends knew, but
Initially.
initially, yeah.
Yeah,
And so it was like, if
that's
we get
true.
married, by the time we hit September, we would have been long gone from the school. And people will meet us in the mall, and there'll be a baby in the stroller, and they'll be like, "Hey," and we're like, "Yeah," it's like, "Hey, honeymoon baby,"
Like nobody will get it.
right?
But that's your subconscious mind attempting to hide
Right.
all of this because it hurts so deeply to think that you are now disconnected from your community, from people that you love, from God. That hurts
It's
terribly.
disconnection, it's punishment, it's like shame. Like, I don't want to see disappointment in your eyes, so I'm going to hide the fact, the truth from you. I'm afraid. And again, same thing, Adam and Eve, right? Like hiding, right? Like, hey, God's like, where are you? And it's like, and they're hiding, and it's like, well, it's not hiding because they're naked. It's hiding because, oh no, we've done something that we think will disappoint you, and we think this love is conditional
Mm.
upon us being perfect. And now that we're not perfect, you don't love us anymore. And I think people in the church and everybody still believes that in some weird way, that we're not loved as much as we were because we're not perfect. And that's such a lie. And that's kind of a big reason behind already loved. Like, you are already loved, not because of what you've done or anything, but because of who God is. He is love, and he loves you because of who he is. And he loved Adam and Eve because of who they were, because of who he was. So much so that he showed up for the walk. Like, he showed up for their regularly scheduled walk. And they're the ones who were hiding. And it wasn't like he didn't push them away. They ran away, and they started thinking, well, God doesn't love us anymore, and we're separated from him. And those were all of Adam and Eve's, delusions. And in the same way, like, we thought, man, it's like the school, like, we thought, oh, we might get stoned or tomatoed, or like people were going to hate us. And so we wanted to hide. But the truth was, oh, they're going to gather around you and encircle you and with love and prayer. But that was, if we had known that or thought that, we would have run to them. But you don't,
Yeah.
because you're afraid of rejection.
And I don't know that we ever would have chosen that route of vulnerability, like the way it looked for us on our own, standing up in front of all these people. And I don't even today necessarily think that's how you have to do it or anything at
Yeah.
all. That was our story. And we weren't forced into that. It was offered to us. We chose to do that. And I felt we did feel God leading us to do it. But I don't think if we hadn't had that opportunity presented to us that we would have chosen to do that. But that vulnerability really was the thing that broke the power of shame.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to, like he said, like once we shared openly, there was no more prison that could hold us. There was no more condemnation or fear that had control over us. And we felt that immediately because, like you said, when we walked in the cafeteria after, we felt completely different. And that didn't change some of the struggles that were ahead for us, obviously, of working on our relationship and working through things. Definitely not. But there is something to be said about the power of vulnerability to overcome shame. And, some of you might have know of Brene Brown, but she's an author who, when I read her books, it just brought light to that in my own life. Like I was able to see this is a truth that I didn't know back then was happening, but it definitely is a truth. And when we think about, we heard it said the other day, Jesus went to speak to some of his disciples after he was raised from the dead, and he went in, and the first thing he showed them was the wounds in his hand, and you were saying he showed them his vulnerability, and that promoted that connection with them. And I think that just makes vulnerability so powerful.
Yeah. And again, the power of phrase you had said, like, I think the power of sin is in its secrecy, and it keeps you isolated. It keeps you disconnected. And because the lie is, you're connected when you behave, or you're connected when you do good, or you're connected when you're in good standing. And, we think about that about, I mean, your kids might think like that. you know, oh, mom, I don't want to tell you this. I broke a glass, so I cleaned it up quickly and I hid it. Or I did something bad at school and I don't want you to get the report card or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like we hide the things that we think are going to cause disconnection.
Mm.
And that's because underneath it all, we think our connection is a reward or some sort of,
Mhm.
like thing for like good behavior.
Yeah.
And it's not. And so then we hide, we lie, we make things worse, and all because we're afraid of disconnection.
And we can be afraid of disconnection for actual good reasons. Like, oftentimes that goes right back to your childhood and your growing up. And in life, we all come up against situations where people, by their response to us, by our interactions with other people, we feel a sense of that disconnection based on doing bad things. So, like he was saying, you can feel it from your parent when your parent says, you were bad because you ate those cookies. Now go to your room. And right away, that teaches a child that when I do something that's wrong, I am become disconnected from you. I'm no longer welcome in your presence. And that's just a small thing. And we think telling our kid to go to their room because they did something bad, it seems so small. But without this side of come to me, let me hold you, I love you, I will always love you no matter what you do, without that intimate emotional connection with the person in those situations, then it's one sided and it's the disconnection side. And we learn these patterns over a whole lifetime. And then we begin to apply them to God and say, okay, this is what everybody was like. This is what happened in all these scenarios. God, you must be like that too. And we don't do it logically, but we do it subconsciously. And that was something for me that in the last few years, when I've been growing in this, just realizing that I had to stop and ask God, like, bring this to my awareness because so much of the belief patterns are so subconscious. And it took a little while for me to see it, but definitely I did see those patterns in my life
Yeah.
and in my behavior.
And it's not just like a religious, or a church thing, or like Christians are the only ones who do this. I think it's a very human thing. Like it can think back to like prehistoric times and you're in some tribe. And if you did a bad thing, they would excommunicate you or exile you. And of course, if you're not part of the group, you are open to way more dangers. And so, like, you don't want to not be part of the group. You don't want to not be by the fire because if you're out by yourself, you could get attacked or you could get killed or whatever. So there's that going on. And then there's the, even think of like fables that we tell, or even like some Bible stories that we tell, and it's like, oh, look, there's a scapegoat, and the goat takes all the sin and gets kicked out of the camp. And now you got to be out of camp. Or if you have leprosy, you got to go out the camp too. And so these things have been learned and sort of part of the human DNA, so to say, that obedience or good behavior is a requirement for connection. And that's what everybody wants, connection. Now, of course, there's truth to that. Like we put people in jail if they break a crime, and you break the social contract. There's consequences and stuff like that. But the issue is whether my good behavior is a condition of your love, right? And it that's where it breaks down. Where it's like,
Because we can still love people and teach each other how to behave well. You can still, those things can live together
right.
as opposed to you have one or the other. You have love or you have bad behavior.
Yeah,
Does that make
exactly. And that,
sense?
like even with the disciples, right? Like they belonged to Jesus's crew long before they believed in Jesus,
Hmm,
which was long before they ever behaved,
definitely.
right? Whereas we kind of think, oh, we have to behave first. We have to do things right. We have to stop drinking, stop stealing, stop smoking, stop having sex. And then we'll be accepted. And then we're good enough. And now we're in the in group with Jesus or with God or with the church or whatever. And it's just like you don't consciously think it, but that drives so much of our behavior. And there's behaviors that we do, even the good behaviors can come from a place of fear of disconnection. Like, I'm going to serve the most. I'm going to show up early. I'm going to do all these things that are good because I want to be in the in crowd. Or I want to have status in this group.
Mhm.
And so amongst Christians, status means praying. Oh, she prays 10 hours. So I'm going to pray 10 hours because that means
Yeah.
and so even the good things, man, it's amazing to pray for 10 hours. Like, do it. But if you're doing it out of this place of fear, because I'm going to get rejected if I don't, or
Mhm.
I'm not going to be good enough, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Jesus is coming and saying, I don't even like to his disciples. He's like, hey, just come follow me. Let's hang out. Let's eat. Let's talk. Let's joke. It was that sense of belonging. That we are a group. And in that context, then they begin to believe, they see the miracles, they see him do things. They're like, oh, okay, that's cool.
And love becomes the motivator for us changing ourselves.
Exactly.
And that's the key. And so maybe to like sum up everything into sort of a main thought to end here is that God has always loved us. And
Mhm.
that's why we say that we're already loved, because we're not loved when we do this or do that or behave a certain way or achieve this or achieve that. Love has always been and will always be. It doesn't stop and it doesn't start because love is a person. Love is God, and that's his nature and his character, and he doesn't change. And we have always been in a connected community with love because we're seated with God in heavenly places. We've always been in that family. That's always where he has had us as
Yeah.
his children. And you don't tell your child, if you're loving well, you don't tell them, oh, go live over there because you were bad today. Like, we're in a community with God, and he trains us and he teaches us what is good
Mm.
and what is healthy, but he never stops loving us or disconnects from us in the midst of that growing journey that we have with him.
Yeah. I remember a friend of ours telling us, she was like, her daughter, we're telling us about this already love um, mission. And she was like, I remember telling my daughter had done something wrong, misbehaved or whatever. And I guess I raised my voice or something. And my daughter later that evening ran into my arms and said, Mommy, do you still love me? I mean, it was probably just a behavior thing. The thought that because I did something wrong means you might not love me anymore, right? Is crazy. And so, of course, the mom's heart broke and she's like, of course I do. Like, but that kid's reaction is a human reaction.
Yeah.
It's global. It's, I am loved because I am good. And when I'm not good, I'm not loved. And it's, of course, it goes deeper than that. But at its core, it's like, these are the things. So our hiding, like, hey, you get pregnant and you're like, oh my gosh, don't tell anybody. I don't want to tell my parents. But basically, we want to hide because we're afraid we're going to people are going to get angry. That means because they're disappointed. And if they're disappointed, they're going to disconnect and they won't see us in the way that we want to be seen, or they're going to look at us different now. They're not going to love me anymore.
And the reason why we think this message is so important is because when we start to get this, and it's not about, getting it 100%, like we're all going to be always on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
But for my own life, and I do believe for your life too, you would agree that in the last number of years, when God has started to really put this in us and bring it to our awareness, it has dramatically changed our lives. It's changed how we behave. It's changed our marriage. It's changed like our parenting, and now our kids are grown and they're adults, but they're definitely seeing a change. Like, my son will come down, he's like, "You're always happy these days." I'm like, "Okay, well, thanks." But it definitely has impacted my emotions, my heart, the way I behave, the way I see everything. And I can say it has brought a lot of peace. There's so much less anxiety and stress in my life. I just feel like more willing to like give love and not, only give it because, oh, you were giving it to me. Like, I feel so much more love. And so that's why we want to share it, because we're not the only ones. We're assuming there's a lot of people out there like us who really needed to hear this message and need to hear it every day. And so we want you, whoever's watching this, to know that you are already loved. There's nothing you have to do, say, or achieve to make God love you. And yes, there are relationships in our lives that can be challenging, and we do have to work through a process of learning how to understand this whole thing. But like we said, once you start to get it with God for yourself, that begins to impact your relationships because you behave so much differently and people see it and they feel it and it begins to change them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you see things through that frame of love and connection and relationship, everything. I mean, look, I think Jesus was trying to tell us that all the time. Like, hey, here, a new commandment I give unto you. Love one another as I have loved you. Or, love the Lord your God. Here's the first commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And the second one is just as important as first. Love your neighbor as yourself. Like, it's all relational
Mhm.
things. There's no behavior thing in there. But all the behaviors, that doesn't mean that behavior is not important to God. It just means it comes from this place of, oh, because I know I belong,
Yeah.
because I know that I'm loved, I can do things out of honor. I can do things out of a place of, like, I want to
Mhm.
protect this connection. I want to keep this thing going.
It's like the
And
order.
yeah.
The order is you came up with this thing of behold, belong, become. Is that right? Can I do it in the right order?
Yeah. I mean, now I'd probably put belong, behold, become, like, belong, like, know that you belong,
Yeah.
know that you have a family, like a child, like, oh, I just belong here, I haven't done anything,
Right.
whatever. Then I begin to see my family, see my father and my mother and my brothers and sisters, and it's like, oh, this I'm part of this,
Mhm.
but I felt that love long before I could even observe who they were,
Right. Yeah.
um and then I begin to behave and become this person that, where the seed was this place of love and belonging.
Yeah.
And so the fruit of my life now is born from that place. But when I don't know who I am, I don't know who loves me, I don't have anywhere place that I belong.
I
I mean,
think I do.
at least I don't think I do. And yeah, and that's the whole thing. And that's the good news, right? That's the gospel right there. It's like, I didn't know who I was and I didn't know who God was and I didn't think he cared or if he was even around. And along comes this man who says, yes, you are loved. Yes, you are. Yes, you do belong. And this is who God is.
Mhm.
Like literally, Jesus came to reveal the Father. Maybe said another way, Jesus came to reveal God as Father. And what does a father do? He loves and anyways, those are
Know what I love?
episodes for another day.
I love how you always bring it back to the word and stories. You're
Oh,
really good at that.
so here I am, this black guy, got a white girl pregnant. And she's like, we got to go tell my parents. Her dad was in the military.
And police.
So a friend of ours offers to drive us to her house where her parents were living, and he drives us over. I don't know why we didn't talk about it with him before, but anyways, Amy and I had a plan. She was going to open and say XYZ, and then I would say whatever, but she was going to start. So the first half of the story is we get to the house, and the guy who drove us, he's like, "Okay, I gotta go," and we're like, "What do you mean you gotta go? Like, you gotta stay."
These are escape plans.
Like I might be running, jumping over the fence, shotgun behind me, you need to stay here, keep the car running, start the car. Like that's what that was all in my head. This is what's gonna happen. This guy's in the military. I don't know. I think I'd met him maybe once or twice, your dad. But I'm like this is stay here. But he couldn't stay. So he drives off or whatever. And I'm like, oh gosh. So we go in. I don't know what the thing was and whether it was lunch or whatever. But anyways, we go in to
It wasn't
talk to
lunch. We
them.
were just sitting around. I remember.
And then so she was supposed to start the conversation and say, Mom, Dad, here's what happened. I'm pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And so they're like, so what did he come to talk to us about? And she just stares off into the distance. And I'm thinking she's waiting. And I'm like waiting, looking at her. Then they look at me like, what's going on? Now I had to tell them. And she didn't say a word the whole time.
That's not true.
Well, until like later after everything's out. Oh my gosh, that was stressful. Oh my God. That was worse than my parents.
Yeah. My mom did freak out quite a bit. No worries, Mom. I know it was because of shock. I totally get it.
That was not in front of us. She
she went in the other room.
You just hear like she's she's like, hold on. She gets up slowly, walks into another room, closes the door. You all you hear is and opens the door, comes back and sits down. Okay.
Oh my
gosh. Her dad was cool. Her dad was very level-headed. I don't remember what he said and all, but he was like, I think because at that point I think they knew we were getting married, or we said we're getting married or something. I don't know.
Great starting point to our new relationship.
It's like left me, hanging,
Anyway, we'll finish with that. But if you enjoyed this episode, our very first inaugural episode, of course, we have to say, like every other podcaster or YouTuber has to say, please subscribe. That would really be awesome, because we're going to be putting out more content like this on a regular basis. And we're really looking forward to getting to know who watches and what you think, any questions that you have, comments, anything like that.
Yeah. And we're here to remind the world that you are already loved.
Yeah. See you next time. Our first podcast. Woohoo! We can do bloopers. Boy, I look good. Mo does good makeup.